then I was like, this is it. And my husband's like, just calm down. I'm like, no, like, I know she's going to be born today. Yeah, I will never forget. I went into labor at midnight on her due date. She was like, I'm ready.
Oh my gosh, what a punctual girl.
I know.
Welcome, Erin. I'm so happy you're here, and we cannot wait to hear your birth story.
So I grew up in Oregon City, Oregon. We lived on a farm, so I grew up with like a ton of animals and a ton of siblings. And then my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. I currently live in Las Vegas, which is completely different. The reason I decided to do a natural birth was very roundabout. Basically, two main reasons. The first one was in 2020, we had a friend who was having a baby, and they told her that if she tested positive for COVID, she couldn't take home her baby from the hospital.
Wow.
So that just like terrified me. Oh man, I would hate like something crazy to happen. I was like, I don't want to have a baby in the hospital for that reason. The other reason was we didn't have medical insurance, and it's really, really expensive to have a child in the hospital. So I was like, well, as long as we're healthy and everything's fine. That was kind of how we came into the story.
Very cool. So just having more options, more choices, more personal autonomy, and then of course, cost. Yes. Home birth is a bargain in comparison. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I'm assuming your pregnancy was low risk and everything went well. And was there anything that happened during your pregnancy that surprised you or challenged you?
Honestly, I mean, I don't think anybody would say pregnancy is easy. But I think just being like really low energy, and I was working with the midwife, and they were super, super helpful about educating us. My husband and I went to all of the appointments. We found out that I had anemia, which is why I was exhausted even more than I should have been. So then I started like getting really diligent about taking supplements. So that was honestly probably one of the hardest things, was really having to majorly adjust my diet so that I even felt good. But then once we kind of got that under control, it was pretty smooth.
The minute you said total exhaustion, I thought anemia, because that's the classic symptom.
Yeah.
So did you do more red meat, and what did that look like? Like having vitamin C with your iron foods, or how did you adjust your diet?
I got desiccated beef liver because I was unwilling to just cook and eat liver. So I took those diligently. A friend of mine had a child who had anemia, and she told me everything that they did, which was a ton of vitamin C. And then she cooked all of their food in cast iron. So then I started aggressively cooking everything in cast iron. And then I also took an iron supplement that was recommended by our midwife. And I think all of those things combined made a big difference.
Was it Florifax or Blood Builder?
It's a liquid iron.
Gotcha.
I think it was Floradix or whatever.
Floradix. Yeah. I think I said that wrong. Yeah. All right. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but you got through it. It sounds like once you got enough iron going through your veins and stuff, you started to feel better, and maybe your energy improved. Okay, cool.
That made a huge difference.
Now, walking into birth, did you have limiting beliefs? Did you have fears? Was there anything that was kind of keeping you up at night around just the birth itself?
True. I didn't think about it in terms of anything I was afraid of. I was like, you know what, everything's going to be fine. So I just was like assuring myself a lot. I didn't feel super worried, but I also am like a huge knowledge is power person. So we actually took the Mama Natural birth course, and my husband and I both took that. So that made a huge difference. And it just like helped my thinking, like, oh, I can do this. Everything is going to be okay. I really appreciated some of the interview testimonies that were on there from different couples that gave a really good perspective. Like, oh, I can do this. And I personally had some friends who said they loved doing natural childbirth. And at first I was like, it was one of those unsolicited advice things that actually ended up being fantastic. Because it was before I was even married or pregnant. I had a friend, she was like, oh yeah, whenever, you get married and have kids, you should totally do this. And I was like, but why? Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
She talked about, just feeling incredible afterwards. And like, I find that hard to believe. But it's really true. I really did feel like that. So I had a really supportive community. A friend of mine is was our doula. So that was how I got connected with that midwife company.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah, I just
How
had to
awesome is that?
speak through a lot of things, like tell myself the birth affirmations and like consciously relax and like assure myself that everything was going to be fine.
That's fantastic. What an awesome gift that was just to have, because a lot of times I hear the opposite where the mother is freaking out or the mother-in-law is freaking out or they're sharing all these doomsday stories, friends and relatives, and the girl's like, oh my gosh, just quiet. I'm trying to do this. So
yeah,
what a gift to have, just because it normalizes and makes you feel like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. So that's huge because we know mindset is so critical. Okay, so it sounds like you prepared by doing the birth course, as you've shared, you did some of those affirmations. So you did your body, your mind, it sounds like with the body, you were doing good nutrition. Was there anything else you did to prepare for birth itself?
Exercise was hard because it was, we live in Vegas and she was born in May. So like the last couple months, I was super swollen, I was tired and I wanted to take walks, but like that was really difficult to do, just to be on my feet for any period of time. So I didn't do as good on the exercise portion, but I was really consistent with doing the stretches. And I think that did help me feel better. So I was pretty on top of that.
Okay, cool. All right. So as Labor Day approached, did you go overdo, underdo? Like, how did that look? And then how did you know, okay, I'm really in labor?
So this is crazy. Once we got closer, I wasn't really worried about the birth. I was like, I just want to know when she's going to be born. That's what I was stressed about. I was like, because you get to a certain point and people start asking like, how's it going? And then you're like, look, I'm still pregnant, obviously. She actually ended up being born on her due date.
Love it. That is awesome.
So the night before, I had like some bloody discharge and I called our midwife and I was like, hey, I think this is this. She's like, might be, but it could be, your body's just continuing to prepare. So it wasn't necessarily indicative of when. And in my head, I just felt like she was going to be born like that night. So we watched the movie. I went to bed. I woke up at midnight with like much more regular contractions than I had because I had only had just a little tiny bit of Braxton Hicks contractions here and there. Then I was like, this is it. And my husband's like, just calm down. I'm like, no, like, I know she's going to be born today. So, I will never forget. I went into labor at midnight on her due date. She was like, I'm ready.
Oh my gosh, what a punctual girl. I love
awesome.
that. Griffin was born at like 11:03 p.m. the day before his due date. So he was a little early, but yes, okay. I love that. And in some ways it just was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's like sometimes, I think I'm very aware of exactly when I ovulate. I would always remember when we had sex. So I feel like all my calculations were pretty spot on, where I think maybe some women, maybe their cycle's a little bit more irregular or they're not paying attention quite as closely, but it is pretty wild how, I don't know. It just seemed like for me, it was always right around 40 weeks, and when did you think, okay, I need to contact my midwife and let people know that this is happening?
They instructed us, if you think you're going into labor, call us.
Okay.
So, and they're like, even if it's not, call us anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, we should probably call them. So I called them that night and then I called them in the morning, like, hey, I had contractions overnight. And then I actually called my mom because I didn't want to tell my sister right away because I knew she was just going to panic. So we didn't tell her until way later.
Smart.
So I called my mom and then my mom came over and she actually just like spent the whole day here cooking. It felt weirdly like a holiday.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
She was like, making healthy food for us and for the midwife team and like preparing red raspberry leaf tea and fruit. And it was awesome.
Oh, what a gift. Sounds like she was so supportive.
Yeah, she really, really was. She was calm. We only had a handful of people, but they were all like not going to stress me out.
Yes, that's so good to know. Yeah, to have that kind of people. Did anything unexpected or surprising happen? So like, as you kind of went through, you're in early labor, did you use any tools that you found were super helpful as you were kind of going through that early part of labor?
I spent probably the whole first part of the day, because I labored almost through the whole entire day time period, sitting on the birth ball, because that was the most comfortable position on the yoga ball. I actually couldn't stop throwing up for quite a while, and I was not expecting that. And that was pretty stressful. That was weirdly the worst part of labor. I just couldn't stop throwing up, and I I was so like in my own mind. But then I was like kind of realizing, oh, our doula is like concerned. And I said to myself, if I can't stop throwing up, I'm going to have to go to the hospital if I lose too many fluids. And I'm not going to the hospital, and the baby needs food. And I like willed myself to stop throwing up.
Wow.
And like after that, after I decided I'm like, I'm not going to throw up anymore, I didn't. And I had been every single contraction. So that was amazing.
Whoa. It's like mind over matter right there.
Yeah.
What did you get to the point where you were throwing up just bile? And because it was, okay. And so then were you repleting yourself at all? Like having coconut water or any kind of fluids?
Yeah, they were trying to give me just like water and like popsicles, but I couldn't even keep anything down, not even just like a little bit. So that's like brutal. Every contraction. So that was unexpected. It was also, for some reason, I thought if the baby was like in, because she was LOA, which is what we wanted, and I think I thought I wasn't going to have back labor if the baby was in the right position. I had terrible back labor like the entire time. So our doula and then my husband would take turns giving me counter pressure on my lower back, and that helped. I mean, it didn't make it feel like eliminated, but it did help.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, I think I thought Griffin was like in the perfect position, and I had terrible back labor. And it's just, there's no real, you can just kind of like cope with it, until baby gets in a better position, basically, and is able to, or you deliver your baby. So, okay. Now going through transition, it probably was hard to know because it's like usually women throw up during transition, but you were throwing up the whole time. So when did you know, like, okay, this is really like things started getting intense where you had to really focus between every contraction? And it was like maybe the time where you're like, I want an epidural, or I'm not cut out for this. Did you have kind of the classic transition type experience?
We had set up the baby room to be the delivery room. My contractions were regular, but they were like, it'd be like weird periods of time in between. So even though they were happening often, it wasn't in a really great pattern. So our doula was trying to get more consistency. So she was like, why don't we have you lie down in your bed? And she put like big pillows in between my legs to like help me open up more. And I was like, I don't want to. Because it was really painful to change positions.
Yeah.
But after I did that, then I started to feel like really, really intense. Probably, I don't remember exactly at what time of day that was, but probably it was maybe like 3 or 4 hours after that she was born. So like the contractions started to be really, really regular, really intense. And that's when I knew. It was pretty funny. So it was, for most of the day, it was my husband, our doula, and my mom. And at that point, when we were in my room and I started like really making vocalizations, my mom was like, I'm the only one in here who's had a baby. She's like getting closer.
Yes, I love that.
So then they called the midwives, and then they came after that.
Okay, so your mom's mama's intuition kicked in, and she was the one that made the call. Yeah. So that's awesome. Yeah. That is fantastic, and what a great helper to realize. Like, okay, so I just want to be sure mamas hear that, like changing the position, getting your pelvis in good alignment, opening up your pelvis, getting it more balanced, so that things could be more, instead of just like an irritable uterus that's just reacting. Like sometimes women, you'll have like little shorter contractions, they're just not as effective. So it sounds like by just making your pelvic, changing the position of your pelvis, it was able to kick in, that head was able to engage in a better way to put that pressure on the cervix. So you're having stronger, longer, and better contractions, basically. So that was awesome. Okay. So then the midwife came. Take us through how you started to feel that urge to bear down and to push.
As for the first part of the day, it was all kind of like pain management. I was trying to make myself feel comfortable. And actually, something that I think you said either in the class or in your birth video was genuinely life-changing. You talked about imagining yourself riding the waves. And that was exactly like the entire day. I pretty much had my eyes closed. I was so like 100% focused. I never felt panicked. I just imagined myself riding the waves. And then at the transition I almost felt myself losing control. And I was like, no, I'm not going to lose control. I'm going to stay calm. But it went from feeling like I'm just trying to make myself comfortable to, okay, now it's time to do the work. Not that I hadn't been, but
no, I know what you mean. Yeah,
that was what it felt like in my body. It felt like that, like, oh no, I'm actually now trying to make the baby come out instead of just allowing my body to do what it was doing. I'm actively participating now. That was how it felt.
Totally. Which could be a relief instead of just being a passive passenger in some ways. You're like, okay, I'm just along for this ride. Now you get to play an active role and, help this baby make his or her appearance. Yeah. So how long did you end up pushing? And tell us about like when you finally, gave birth, how that felt just holding your baby for the first time.
We ended up in our bedroom, and then I was on the bed pushing for a little while, and then I was just terribly uncomfortable. So I actually got on my hands and knees because that was one of the stretches that I had done, like the cat cows, and that had always helped me feel better. So I just literally rolled off the bed onto my hands and knees. And then I ended up staying there the rest of the time I pushed for about 2 hours. And throughout the day, I had a sense of time. But once it was to that point, I really didn't. That was the point where I had no idea how long it had been, but I told myself, okay, you just have to do 20 more. Obviously, I had no idea how long it's actually needed to tell myself something. So I'm like, okay, you just have to do 20 more pushes. So what was so crazy was I couldn't believe how well I could feel the baby. And I would feel her, and then I would push, and I would feel her go lower. And then if I relaxed my body at all, she would come way back up again. So she wasn't staying where I pushed her to.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is kind of frustrating. So, I have no idea how many pushes I did, but then I realized, okay, because this is how it's going, and I would even feel her almost coming out, and then she would go way back up again.
Had your water broke?
It did.
Okay. Because sometimes that happens if your water hasn't broken yet. It's like back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So your water had broke, but it was still kind of this push-pull thing.
Yeah. So then I was like, she's going to have to come out all at once.
Yeah.
I had this whole playlist made. I barely heard it because I was making vocalizations the whole time, which really did make me feel better because it made me feel like I was doing something. It was just this, probably maybe the only second time during the day I had heard the playlist. And there was this song on there called Come Out of Hiding. And there's a line in the song, it's come out of hiding, you're safe here with me. There's no need to cover what I already see. And it was quiet, and everybody in the room heard it at the same time. We were like, whoa.
Wow.
It was
I get the chills.
Yeah, I was like, it's time to come out now.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was the phrase, you've been on lockdown and I hold the key. And it was just wow. I realized I'm the one who's bringing her into the world. I'm the only one who can do this. And it was wow, I just realized I had the power and ability to bring her into the world. So that was really cool. And it was maybe only 1 or 2 songs after that she was born. And so I had to push her out all at once. She came out, and it was pretty intense pain. But then I couldn't believe, immediately after she was born, there was no more pain. That was mind blowing. I was like, I didn't think this was possible because you haven't,
Mhm.
I was like, I haven't been injured. My body is not injured. It was just working. So that was really surprising, like that there was so much intense pain and then suddenly it was gone. I was like, wow.
And that is the gift of natural childbirth. It's just the recovery is so much easier. It's just, you're on such an endorphin high that you feel amazing for most moms. And
Yeah.
you're able just to, you're like, I can't believe I just did that. And it's almost like it never even happened. You're like, I was in anguish, 20 minutes ago. Now I'm happy. Yeah, it's such a gift. I remember getting up, I'm like eating Mexican food, walking over here, doing that. And you would never know I just gave birth. And that's the gift.
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
gift.
I totally felt that. Like except for like emotional highs, I've never felt high, but that was such an emotional high. And like I was like, it really was crazy. I looked at her and I was like, I would do it all over again. Like, let's go right now. I'll do it
Yes.
right now.
Wow. That's
I felt
fantastic.
great.
So how long was your birth, would you say, from start to finish approximately?
It was about 20 hours total.
Okay. Wow. Gosh, to have that attitude, let's do it again, that says a lot. That says a lot. And how did it feel to hold your baby? Did you know you were having a girl? And
I did. It
yeah.
was really special. I had a dream about her while I was still pregnant about what she looked like. And then when she was born, she looked exactly like the baby I had the dream about. I was like,
so
this is my
cool.
baby.
That is so cool.
It was really special. She was all like wet and crying. I was like, oh, I love you.
Love her a little bit. Just get her to like be like that so she can clear a little bit more of her lungs. Oh, look at your little hands. I've been feeling your little hands. Sean, she has your hands.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like really wet. I'm like gushing some stuff.
You were gushing some stuff.
Oh, such pretty hands.
Wow. You see her shoulder rolls?
I know.
Oh, yes, that oxytocin high, and you already are like just bonding with baby. How would you say childbirth, just going through that whole experience, it's just so intense, it's so primal. How would you say childbirth changed you?
I think especially for the first, maybe like particularly the first 2 weeks after she was born, I still felt that high. I had like a little bit of a coming down, but I didn't feel like I expected a crash. But what I really felt was, wow, I can do anything. And it hasn't been like as powerful as it was since then, but I even see like a mindset change. Like nothing is forever, like all of this is temporary. And it's kind of like helped me have a mindset change. Like if I could do that, I can do this, which nothing is ever as difficult as that. So it's just
totally.
Like,
it gives you just like this innate confidence. You're like, if I can do that, I can do pretty much anything. And yeah. And just like an inner strength. And I think, and just like a really powerful bond with your child too, because you went through it together, in this really beautiful, conscious and amazing way. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Okay. Is there any advice you would have given your pre-birth self after walking through it and having that experience? Is there anything you would have told yourself that might have helped?
I think I did feel really ready. I felt not like ready, like get this baby out. I never actually felt like that. I just felt like whenever she comes, I'm ready. I felt good. I think I probably would have just told myself like, everything's going to be great. And it's going to be better than you can even imagine. Even though that's how I felt. I'm like, wow, I couldn't have imagined that she would be this beautiful. I couldn't have imagined how smooth it would be. I was even like talking to someone this morning. I'm like, nobody says parenting is easy, but I think it's not as like difficult as I expected. Nothing has been as difficult as I anticipated, which I know like there's nothing I could do about that. It's like a gift.
That is a gift. Yeah.
But yeah. I'm really just thankful how beautifully everything turned out.
Yeah. That's awesome. She must be a pretty good sleeper and eater and
she sleeps and eats pretty well. She sleeps in bed with us because she doesn't like to not be with us.
Sure. Yeah. Who could blame her?
Yeah.
Okay, how about any advice for a mama out there who's going to be watching, who's pregnant and nervous and it's her first time and she's concerned? What would you tell her?
Genuinely, we have had 12 babies within the last year of our personal friends have had that many babies. And so I've heard so many different stories and all these things. Like my sister-in-law had a baby, and seriously, unless there was a really, really good reason, I would totally recommend doing a natural birth, doing a home birth. I think you would end up feeling so much more peaceful, so much more relaxed, and then you're already home. I was so thankful after she was born. I was like, this is great. I don't have to go home from the hospital. We're already exactly where we're supposed to be. And I didn't have to leave the house. The midwife came to us for her 48-hour checkup, and they were just amazing. So I think I would say you totally can do it. It's more peaceful than you would think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Home birth is just such a sense of belonging, and it's just so seamless. You just roll from one thing to another, and it's a really sacred, beautiful, calm, peaceful experience. So for moms that are good candidates, it is fabulous. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so very much, Erin. This is such an awesome story, and it's going to inspire so many mamas, so many first-time mamas who are going on this journey. So thank you so much. We so appreciate it. Okay. All right. Well, take good care. Okay. Love on your little girl.
We will.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. Also, head on over to mamanatural.com/updates and sign up for my free pregnancy week-by-week series. Each week, you'll see what's up with baby, what's up with mama, and learn how to have your best, most natural pregnancy. Finally, check out the Mama Natural Birth Course. You've been told that childbirth is scary and something completely out of your control. But I'm here to tell you something different. You can rock your childbirth. And midwife Maura Winkler and I will teach you how. And join the thousands of women just like you who have joined my birth course and have had triumphant natural childbirths. Learn more at mamanaturalbirth.com.